Hey, this is Jake, and you're listening to the Jake Lawrence Podcast. Today's guest is Heather Otto, as you could have already surmised from the description of the episode. She is a creative content marketing manager at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. She works in customer advocacy as kind of a broader term, and she's responsible for the quality of the overall experience when inviting customers into one of their 55 globally located HP locations. But she's really, content marketing manager, right? So what is content marketing first? What is creative content marketing? And how does she do that in a corporate environment? And how are those different, let's say, in a non-corporate environment? This is really interesting for me because she's at a very large company. She's doing this with one of the world's top brands. And she kind of just goes through the process, through where she finds creativity, how she connects with customers, how she finds the data to connect with customers. And we talk about kind of the changing face of digital marketing and the changing face of content marketing too, where it's going, where she sees it going. Man, this one's just chock full of really great insights for the industry. And I know this is going to help me with my own company, as well as probably many of yours. Personally, I just want to say thank you again to Heather for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you to everyone who is continuing to listen to this. I can't thank you enough for being there for me and kind of going through this journey with me as well. This episode is about 1 month from the last episode, and I just want to apologize a little bit for that. We're trying to be weekly here, but we are kind of not hitting that mark. So I just want to let you know that for the next 2 months, there's going to be one weekly every single week without fail. We got a lot of great new content for you guys coming out soon. So keep up with us, keep on hitting subscribe and like and share. And if you feel up for it, if you're lonely, or if you're just really bored at work today, review us on iTunes or wherever you have this, and give us a good word, because that helps us out a lot. So anyways, without further ado, Heather Otto. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
How are you doing in beautiful California?
Yes, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's another day in paradise here in San Diego. Thank you.
The weather right now is in the low 80s, and it's got this beautiful breeze, and it's very unlike a Chicago evening. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of envious of where you live.
Well, I have to tell you, it's been really hot here. We've had some Santa Anas coming in, and it's just made it extremely warm. But I do remember the Chicago summers and winters. I'm very aware of the two extremes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think all of my listeners here in Chicago are going to be just as envious as I am, and they're going to want to fly to San Diego for sure. How did you end up in San Diego, Heather?
Long story. Basically, it goes back all the way to my childhood, and not to bore everyone too much, but I was always a girl who wanted to pursue the theater. I wanted to be an actress. And so at a very young age, I started telling people that I was going to move to California. I wasn't sure where in California. I was probably thinking more Hollywood. But after visiting San Diego when I was in high school, I just fell in love with it. And so since that time said that I was going to move to San Diego. So fast forward several years, and I was actually living in Colorado, had the flexibility with my job, and just decided, I'm going to go do it. So moved out to San Diego. Funnily enough, my roommate, we met freshman year at Northern Illinois University. She was still living in Chicago at the time. And I called her up and said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to move out there. She called me back about a week later and said, my lease is up in August. I'm thinking I might move too. and so we moved out to San Diego together, and she still lives here as well.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Pretty neat.
That's so awesome. You had an opportunity, you pursued it, and now you're living in paradise.
Absolutely. Kind of my mantra, see an opportunity, go get it.
Well, Heather, you are, as your LinkedIn title suggests, are a creative content marketing manager. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the journey? Kind of like your first job, I see, is a reporter/producer, right? And you want to tell us how you came from the reporting, niche to now the content marketing niche?
Absolutely. It's really interesting because, I think I'm very fortunate looking back that not many people can look back on their major in college and say, yes, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do, or I'm leveraging all the skills that I learned. And I feel very fortunate to be able to do that every single day. As a little girl saying I want to be an actress, so recognizing that I wanted to connect with people, I wanted to tell people's story, all the way through to communication and journalism at Northern, to becoming a reporter. Even, I had a brief time working at Walt Disney World. I actually did the Disney College program while I was studying at Northern. Yeah, it was very neat. And I mean, and they've built an entire enterprise, right, on telling stories. That's what they do. And I just connected with that. And it was all about the guest experience. And so really thinking of these different trigger points throughout my life and throughout my career that I've taken to get me to where I am now, it's all about connecting with people, listening to them, learning their story, finding a way to tell that in the most compelling way. And that's really what content marketing comes down to. It's a fancy term, or maybe for some people it's overly basic, but what it comes down to is really listening to your audience and being able to deliver content and deliver communication that hits them, that pulls at them, that moves them in a way to make them want to do something.
So you persuade people then. You nudge them in the right direction by listening to what they're saying.
Yeah, so many times throughout my career, you should go into sales. And I think to myself, I would be awful, because if the product that I'm trying to sell, if I'm talking to somebody and I'm obviously noticing that this product would not suit their needs, I'm going to tell them, you know what? Yeah, this probably isn't the best thing for you. But then I always hear back from other people, no, that's genius, because that's what makes a good sale. Because at the end of the day, the customer is looking for that trust. And so again, it may not come down to the product. It may come down to them saying, you know what, you had the opportunity to sell me something and you actually steered me in the other direction. So actually, you've just gotten a loyal customer. I always think of that example on Miracle on 34th Street. Do you remember when Santa Claus, he tells some of his customers, you know what, we don't have that here in Macy's, but why don't you go on down to the other store? And somebody overhears that. And so they start sending customers away to this other store. And at first, the business gets mad. But then they end up coming back and they hear the conversations, the people saying, you know what, they have a loyal customer for life if they're going to recommend another store just to make someone happy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so for the people that aren't aware of, content marketing, would you kind of provide some, like an explanation and maybe some examples of what that exactly is?
Sure. So content marketing, I would say in its broadest term, is developing many different formats of content. So whenever you think about the business and you're thinking about your external audience, this would be your website, articles that are written, white papers that are going out, videos that are being produced. All of this is under the broad umbrella of content marketing. So it's really, looking at the different audiences and finding the content that's going to suit them. I mean, we look at our world today and even LinkedIn, Jake, going out to LinkedIn and based on my recent search history or my interest, my job interest, I get ads and I get plugs for seminars that are coming up that would be of interest to me. That's content marketing. They know their audience and they take a very targeted approach to getting us things that they think we'd be interested in.
Right now, you're not working for a small business. You're not working for a medium-sized business. You're working for Hewlett Packard, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. So it's I have to correct you, minor correction. It's Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So Hewlett Packard separated about maybe a year and a half ago, actually now. And so we have HP Inc., which is the laptops and the printer business, more on the consumer side, right? And then Hewlett Packard Enterprise is more on the enterprise. So we do your servers, your storage, your large enterprise products.
Okay, wow, that's cool. And then in terms of like products and content marketing, it's such a large scale company with different departments, and there's probably hundreds and if not thousands of employees. I guess I haven't talked to a content marketer in that space yet. So I guess I'm just interested in what the process is for this like top-down content marketing strategy.
Yes, big one. I would say, and I mean, as for any large company, there are many different players involved in the process. And really, the goal at the end of the day, and this may sound a little corny, but the goal at the end of the day is really keeping a customer focus. And so no matter what we have going internally and, the different players involved, I'm always trying to approach the content strategy with what is it that our customers want? What do they want to learn about? What do they want to hear? So specifically, I work in our customer advocacy organization. So now you can see where my, even deeper level of interest comes from in that regard. What we are responsible for is the overall experience when we invite customers into one of our centers. So we have about 55 centers globally, and 5 primary locations: Palo Alto, Houston, New York City, London, and Singapore. And it's my responsibility to make sure that our customers are getting the best experience no matter which one of those centers they step foot in, and that they are getting a consistent message, again, no matter which of those centers they step into. And so, what I'm always emphasizing among the team is that this is our brand. We have an opportunity to represent our brand in everything that we do. The content is just one piece of that. But surely, when the customers leave our centers, they should be able to really have a solid understanding of what it is that we do, feel comfortable with that, feel like we're somebody that they want to partner with. And then also, it should be a memorable experience. There's this whole death by PowerPoint thing that's been actually going on for a long time. But I think that after you've been in the business for so long, I don't know what it is. I don't know the threshold at all. But at some point, I think all of a sudden you just like throw up your hands and you're like, no more. I don't want to see another PowerPoint. And it's interesting because the more people I am talking to in our company, that's what I'm hearing. That's the other piece of content marketing and again, it goes back to the customer experiences. Jake, if I invited you to a conference and I said, it's going to be a really amazing conference, I really want you to go with me. And we're going to sit there for 2 days and it's just going to be session after session of PowerPoint. Guaranteed. You know that.
I'm going to run away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would do the same thing. I'd be like running alongside of you. That's what I'm trying to get more and more people to think about is what type of experience do we expect now? I read recently that humans have a lower attention span than a goldfish, an attention span of 8 seconds. No, it's true. I swear. 8 seconds. In 8 seconds, and this kind of takes me back to my broadcasting days because you're always looking for the hook. What's that one liner that you're going to give people to make them tune in for the next segment, right? And that's what we now find ourselves doing on our platforms, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. What's that hook that you're going to get people to tune into the rest? Same in the corporation, is that you have to find something, whether it's the way in which the content is presented. So, i.e., not just your standard PowerPoint, something a little bit more compelling. The presenter themselves, how dynamic are they? And then just that quick little bite of a story that all of a sudden it makes their ears perk up and they say, this might be worth tuning into.
So what's the hook for you then? For the products that you're trying to push out, what's the hook? What's the hook for the Palo Alto Center when you go in?
So really the hook, I would say I can get to the Palo Alto piece, but the hook in a more general sense is that we're a partner that you can trust. We have years of experience and, we want to sit down. We want to go through your business problems with you. We're not just here to sell you solutions. It's not a one size fits all. Everybody's at a different stage in their journey. And we want to sit down and figure out where you're at and what's the best path for you going forward for what you want to do. It's a very customized, very personal relationship.
And so with this hook, does someone pitch it via PowerPoint in like a staff meeting? Or is this like kind of born out of lots of research about the customers, lots of analysis and a lot of experimentation? Or like which comes first, the hook or like the research on the customer?
Definitely the research. Definitely. I mean, just like, any sort of marketing program, you're constantly learning about your customers. It doesn't come naturally, like you and I today, even. I mean, we're hitting it off, we're having a great conversation, but obviously each one of us, came into this conversation saying, hey, I know a little bit about you, and that's more natural to have a really engaging conversation, I think, because then you can go into it and you can say, hey, I saw you went to Northern, I'm a Husky too. And, and we can talk about that. I think that you're wanting to find that common ground. You want to find some way to connect with your customers. Yes, we do a lot of research before they come into one of the centers, and really with the idea in mind that we want to have the right people in front of them. We want to have the right people in the room. And again, going back to where I come into play is, what's that right content? What's the right message for what they want to get out of the conversation?
So you said something earlier that interested me, was this idea about like listening to the chatter, right? How does your team do that, and what does the process look like?
Listening to the customer?
Right.
It's a few different things. So we rely heavily on our account teams. And so these are the people who have the closest relationship with the customer. These are the people that we rely on. And we have a few prep calls leading up to the event of customers coming in. And this is the opportunity for the account teams to tell us the health of the customer. This is where they're at. This is why they're interested in coming in. Here are some opportunities. So that's one way of getting what I would call a pulse on the customer. We also have something when the customer does come in. So we allow them a place on the agenda. And I shouldn't even say allow. I mean, like, this is necessary and is completely appropriate. It's called the voice of the customer. So this is the first thing that we do every day when the customers come in, is have them talk to us. Whatever it is that they feel is most important to driving the rest of the day, share with us. And then beyond that, we're really encouraging more conversation. Again, it's not intended to be, hey, you come in and you just listen to our pitch for 8 hours. It's intended to be more of a workshop, more of that informal sit down and let's just brainstorm. Let's brainstorm with you guys. Let's figure out how we can work better together. I think that the listening is definitely not a one and done. It's just an ongoing process.
I'm so glad that it's not like a conference full of 8 hours worth of presentations.
No.
Oh, I've been there before, Heather, by the way. I've been there.
Yeah, we all have, and we all hope we never go back. That's the thing, is like, it goes back to the attention span thing. I was speaking to a group probably about a year ago, and I said, it's not enough anymore to be engaged. We need to be entertained. And I think there's a lot of merit to that, because we're just a society. We only are drawn to the most attractive things, right? So, and not to be condescending or anything, whenever I say like, what's the flashy toy? But it's true. We're in a society where we scroll through news feeds until something, a word, a picture, something catches our eye. 2-minute videos are now too long. I read that the other day too, that once upon a time, we were talking about cutting, 5-minute videos, and it was like, oh man, you want us to get it down to 2.5? How am I going to do that? We're going to lose a lot of the context.
Now it's 30 seconds.
They're saying, no, your videos need to be 30 seconds. Yeah. That's just where we're at. And we have to, in the corporate environment, we also have to adjust to that sort of behavior.
So talk about that corporate environment and creativity, because I'm getting a big, a pulse from you that you're a creative mind and you like to, tell narratives and you like to talk to people and you're very, customer focused. So how does that corporate environment help you with your creativity?
I've been with Hewlett Packard and now Hewlett Packard Enterprise for almost 9 years. And what I've learned from the corporate environment in terms of creativity is the structure to take it forward. So what I mean by that is, generalizing a little bit here, is that creative minds tend to, be a little bit more free form. I mean, that's by their nature, that's like creativity is, I just want to be in my room and I want to paint, or I want to write, or, and just have it be a little bit unstructured. Now in the corporate environment, they really appreciate people who can think like that. But what they need is someone who can think like that, but then also be able to justify it and present it as a strong business case as to why we need it. And that is what this corporate environment has taught me to do. And so now whenever I go to the table and present creative ideas, creative concepts, they're well received because they're done within a structure that says, this is why we need this. This is the business problem that it's solving. And this is the return we're going to get.
Yeah. So how do you calculate the ROI for creative content marketing then?
Very carefully, it's really difficult. And I mean, from our side, it's done. And I could say, personally, the program that I run is really looking at feedback from the people who use the content, and then ultimately feedback from our customers. So we also survey customers after they leave our centers. And I'm able to see, how relevant was the content? How was their overall experience? Questions like that, just around the overall satisfaction that gives me some hints on, okay, did the content hit the mark or not? Additionally, your typical clicks and downloads into the content itself always tell you. You can also, when you're talking social media, you can boost your content on social media. And then obviously you pay for that a little bit, but then you're able to calculate back on, okay, did that click then lead into time on the website? It's very difficult, Jake, and I'm not trying to skirt around the question at all, but there are a few, equations to it, but in all honesty, full transparency, it's definitely not one of those very direct calculations where you can say, like a salesperson, all right, I closed this deal, so that's the direct impact that I made. There's some inference that goes into it in terms of they saw my content that helped influence the closing of a deal or help to influence some pipeline generation.
Calculating the ROI for content marketing, I imagine can be very hard and more of an art than, say, a science. And I'm trying to imagine you in a boardroom, pitching this idea. It's just kind of funny because, you're right, it's more inference than anything. But I think most people and most leadership knows that you have to have really good content. I mean, content is king, right? I mean, that's been like that for such a long time now.
I almost got a t-shirt made that said that, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
No joke. Because it is really important. And I mean, we just launched a couple of new centers. We launched a center in Houston after it was devastated by the flood last year, and then launched a center in Singapore. And the first question from executives. This is why I think your point is absolutely salient, because executives, I'm finding more and more, aren't asking about the overall importance of content. They are actually seeking me out and saying, content is really important to this program. We need to make sure that you've got a solid plan in place for regular content and regular content updates, So it's less and less of me trying to go and prove out how important it is, and more of me going in now and saying, okay, this is our comprehensive content plan, meaning that we're, again, going back to the audiences, certain audiences, this is going to resonate. Well, for other audiences, this might resonate, having a couple of different snacks of some sort for the different audience.
Okay. So you're giving certain parts, certain constituents, certain content, and then certain audiences, other content?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever we go out there, we don't want to have to search around a bunch of generic content. We're in this world where we go out to websites and we think to ourselves, well, they know my interests. Why is this just not coming up based on my interests, my personal preferences, whatever?
It just came to mind this idea that you're kind of like a cog in the greater wheel of the company, right? You're just like a small piece, right, in this global campaign. Yeah. And I listened to that and I'm like, that doesn't interest me at all. And I don't know what it is about me or my personality, but I want to own the whole thing. You know what I mean? I want to be the global initiative itself. Do you ever think that, you want to start your own, kind of content marketing consulting company or something?
I don't know if that would be necessarily the career direction for me, but what I do know is I see your point about owning the whole strategy. And that is something that I'm very interested in and have talked, to other peers and even colleagues within the company about, is because even after our company, separated, and we're much smaller company now than what we were, 2 years ago, there are still, as you said, many different points, many different constituents involved in this life cycle. And so it's my hope to eventually run the organization that would be responsible for the end-to-end customer experience. That being, what's the research? What's the data telling us? How are we responding to that through our content channels, physical and digital? And then how are we making sure that we're then integrating feedback back into the development lifecycle? So in my view, I see the whole picture. And so sometimes it does become difficult to only own one piece of it, because then you're finding yourself very reliant on others. But I guess that's the whole point and lesson behind it.
I think that there are plenty of people out there that are in a position like that, and they love it. They hear or they think about, trying to own a whole company or a whole department, and they cry inside because they would rather just be a collaborator inside something greater. There's nothing inherently wrong about that at all. But let me just bring this up while we're talking about this. But I had Heather kind of fill out a form for like the onboarding process for the podcast, and there's like a short 1-line introduction that I make everyone, write. And hers was, creative marketeer with a maniacal passion for people. And I love that so much. Oh my God. I think though, for me, it's definitely that maniacal passion, you know what I mean? That creates like this craving for extreme ownership. I'm not sure if I had a point there, but now I'm just kind of rambling.
No, it's all good. I mean, and you're exactly right. I mean, there's a passion. As I said in the beginning, there's something inside of me that is just second nature about when I meet people, I want to connect with them. I want to know more about them. I'm curious. And that, again, I bring into every single day of my job, is trying to figure out how can I learn more about these people? And then how can I develop something that's going to be interesting to them? So it really is this, maniacal focus and just this passion for people who just happen to be customers.
Yeah. That actually does sound really fulfilling to me. This idea that you're listening to the customer, you're doing your research on them, you figure out what exactly they want, and then it's your job to creatively give that to them in really cool and interesting and engaging ways that then you can read the feedback reports, you can take the data, how many people clicked on that article, and then you could actually, in real time, see the results of your creativity.
That's one of the things that is always a little bit mind-boggling for me, is that there's so much energy and so much work that's put into creating content and creating productions, events, anything that goes in front of an audience. But then afterwards, it's like everybody sits down and they're like, whew, okay, we're done. And in my mind, again, I like to celebrate. I'm like, that's great. But I guess I just don't stop there, because I think to myself, how do we know it worked? How do we know it was actually effective? And so I always tell people internally here and outside of our team, I say, we've got to figure out if it's working, because why would anyone in their right minds want to invest time in something that no one's going to use? I mean, honestly, if anybody would raise their hand to that, I would say, okay,
get out.
I'm sorry about that. I'm so sorry. But I mean, honestly, and every time I pose that question, and yes, I'm being a little facetious there, but everybody says, no, I don't want to waste time. Nobody has time these days. So I always ask them, I'm like, then what's the harm in just polling the people who you expect to use this and ask them what they think before you invest all the time and energy into actually producing it? And I think there's a little bit of a fear factor there, if I'm just going to lay it out there, is that I think that people are a little bit afraid that their idea is going to be taken away from them a little bit. Because the more people that you ask, the more opinions that you introduce into your idea eventually not being your idea. Or, you have an idea and you think it's great. And then you have that little bit of fear of, okay, if I end up sharing this with people, what if they come back and they tell me it's bad? And so I could be, completely off base there. Just again, it's just this little bit of a hunch that I get sometimes from people that I'm, talking with. And for me, again, it just goes back to, hey, if it's an idea and I think it's brilliant, but then my audience or my expected audience tells me, yeah, no, it's not so brilliant. And I'm going to say, okay, cut your losses.
Yeah. And I think that's important to to introduce and to integrate those types of feedback channels early on before you start the project, and especially after the project's ended, whether or not it's like a social campaign, an event, or like what have you. But does your team do that type of integration for the feedback channels, and does your team also create the key performance indicators, or is that like another department?
No, we do. So we definitely have created a feedback mechanism, a feedback model for making sure that that is integrated into the content development cycle. So upfront, taking a more proactive approach. And that's something that I'm actually very proud of, because I've been able to be a part of that evolution over the last couple of years in this role, going from one of, okay, basic, here's content for you to use, good luck, to it being more of a, okay, let's pull some people into this. And what I found too is that, I don't know if you have any stories to share on this, but it's really interesting when you start asking people for their opinion, because then they start sensing, they feel a sense of ownership in the eventual product. And I tell you, when people feel a little bit of sense of ownership in something, they're going to use it, and they're going to tell 5 of their friends to use it. And so when I start looking at the adoption of this content, once I started pulling people in and saying, hey, yeah, I'd love for you to participate in the project with me. This is our ultimate goal. Love your input. The adoption rate just spiked, because people start saying, hey, friends, use this, So it's been pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think just whenever you integrate the customer more into any project that you have, and I think this is happening a lot in social media, where companies are trying to solicit fans or followers to send over fan-made what have you. And then having that be, ultimately featured in their campaign itself. And then, oh, look, my fan-made art made it to this YouTube channel, or my fan-made art, made it to this Instagram page. And it's just like, yeah, the sense of ownership for sure is going to skyrocket. And they're going to try to blast all their friends and family and say, hey, look what I did.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard, I don't know if you're familiar with Buffer.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so I attended a buffer workshop here in San Diego not too long ago. And they were talking about, giving attribution to photos and stuff, socially. And they said that that's one of the best things, because actually when you are sharing a photo from somebody, you give them credit for it. They not only typically are completely fine with you using it without any sort of rights or anything like that, but they're also going to start sharing your post. And so you actually end up getting more exposure. It's just one of those, strategies that it's pretty simple and it works.
Yeah, definitely. So while we're on the topic of, customers and this idea of attribution, what is with LinkedIn and people just like reposting things that are blatantly not theirs?
Yeah, I saw your post today. Why are you taking my stuff? No, I'm just kidding. But I actually did see your post today too about that. And I was reading through, I thought it was very clever. I don't know. I blame Wikipedia. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, of course.
Way back to just journalism ethics. I don't think that it's something that a lot of people, okay, so here I go, Jake. Here's what's going to happen is that, so I am actually, I studied journalism, studied communications. I was taught these proper ethics. But that was back in the day when not everybody was a journalist. Now everybody is a journalist in their own right,
Yeah.
But so everybody is a journalist, but not everybody has to go through the proper training anymore. And so that's what we see now. And then people like you and me have little trigger points with that stuff. We look at it and we're like, ooh, that's poor form, But I don't think that others see it. So I think that the train's been moving for a long time, and I don't think there's any way to, flag it down at this point. And so I just think it's one of those things that trained professionals, trained journalists like you and myself might have to just kind of sit back and watch.
Yeah. So speaking of LinkedIn, from a creative content marketing perspective, what's your view on the platform? How do you personally use it, and how do you leverage it with Hewlett Packard Enterprise?
Personally, I think that LinkedIn has really evolved over the last few years. And I think it's great. I think it's a great platform. I think it's a great tool. I appreciate that it has not become cluttered with personal anecdotes, too many personal anecdotes. I think that and I really do monitor this with a critical eye, because about a year or so ago, I was thinking, okay, at what point does LinkedIn just become the 30 and up Facebook? And it hasn't. And I've been impressed with that. I continue to be impressed with the way that LinkedIn is scaling itself to the enterprise and becoming an enterprise solution. I mean, we at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, we have integrated our HR systems with LinkedIn, because everybody, for the most part, has a LinkedIn profile. And so as an enterprise, we said, why have everybody create another, career profile and such in another platform? Let's just integrate it.
That's very smart.
Yeah. And similarly, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this at all, but I mean, LinkedIn is a part of every single job application. So they have made themselves the brand like Kleenex. This is for every single job application. It says, you want to upload your LinkedIn profile. We never had that before when it was, Career Builder, Monster.
Indeed.
I think they've done a really great job marketing themselves. I think from a content marketing standpoint as well, I admire them because they are pretty genius, again, when it comes to targeting people with certain content. And I'll be the first one to say that things have popped up on my page and I've clicked into them more than once and I've been introduced to a whole new world of stuff and I'm loving it. I got introduced to HubSpot from LinkedIn. I was introduced to Buffer from LinkedIn because they were having the workshop in San Diego and I clicked in and I was like, what's Buffer? And I just love that. So thank you, LinkedIn.
Wait, are you guys using HubSpot as your CRM?
We don't, but I was just interested in learning it and developing some of my skills with HubSpot.
I was going to be like, wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so I started looking into it. It is a really cool tool though, but we don't use it.
Free marketing for HubSpot and Buffer, the Jake Lawrence podcast.
Yes. You're welcome.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's always interesting to talk about LinkedIn because this is primarily where I'm locating my podcast guests. It's a really good tool if you use it correctly. And I'm on it, I don't know, like 20 minutes a day. And for the last, 3-4 months, and I'm becoming slowly jaded with the types of posts I see. So we'll see how it goes. So part of my whole grand scheme about 3-4 months ago is I started the podcast about 4 months ago, and I wanted to kind of grow my digital brand. So I'm like, what better location and what better platform than LinkedIn? And LinkedIn has a saying, if you go to the same university as someone, basically you can connect with them for free. And you and I both went to NIU, so I connected with you, and then there you were. And it's weird too, and like LinkedIn now, this is their whole business model of using limited amount of in-mail. So if you have like a third connection or like a fourth connection, you can't connect with them for free. You have to use an in-mail, right? And now if you don't have like a premium account or whatever, then you have to like pay for that in-mail. So good on you, LinkedIn, for getting some money. But yeah, really what I do though is just nowadays, I just kind of scan through my followers and I find just interesting and unique people that I personally want to talk to. I think that's like the whole point of this podcast. And that's really what I wanted to have as the podcast idea, is just organic, natural, one-on-one conversations with people I find interesting. Sometimes it doesn't mean that my audience finds them interesting. They're going to love you, by the way, Heather, don't worry. But it comes across though, if you and your guests aren't actually having an engaging conversation, no one's going to listen and they're just going to turn off,
So welcome to my world.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I do. If you don't have interesting content and you are not able to engage in an interesting discussion, as you say, an organic discussion, people recognize that right away and they turn off. So
I think that's the weirdest thing in the world, that humans are so adept at identifying when people aren't being authentic.
I think it's great, though. Personally, I think it's great. But I was actually we have an intern with us for the summer, and she's great. And I was talking to her today, and one of her biggest, I guess, concerns right now at, June 20th is that she is not going to make an impact or add value to our team when she leaves at the end of the summer. And I tried to explain to her that I said, I want you to know, and I know that you're an overachiever. I can tell you're an overachiever, but when you go forward in life, just recognize the impact that you make is not really going to be measured by the number of projects that you complete. And I said, don't get me wrong, that's all important. But I said, the impact that you make is the impact that you're making on people.
Yes,
and being able to, as you said, being able to just be authentic, to be you, to be genuinely interested in other people and express that to them, to, not just start off an email with what you want, to start off an email with, hi, how are you? How is your week going? How are your kids? Take a genuine interest in other people, and you'll find that people are absolutely more willing to be kind and to then do you favors once you've done that.
Oh my God, you are so right, Heather. It's ridiculous. I was just talking to someone about this the other day, and he was like, Jake, if you're a manager, you go into coworker's office and you say, hey, where's that report? The person's probably going to say, oh, sorry, what'd you say? But if you go into the office and say, hey, Jack, how's your day? How's your family? How's your weekend? Oh, hey, by the way, do you have that report? They're not going to repeat themselves, and they're not going to ask you, because you're not treating them like an object anymore. That is so important. It's so important. And it's like sort of a poison. It's a poison in office environments where people are just treating others like objects and not like humans. It's sort of infuriating, to be honest.
Exactly. I don't know if you've heard about this, but, there's the whole B2C, B2B, and now there's this new concept of B2H, which is business to human. And so that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, we just need to really sit back and think about how we want to be treated. I mean, honestly, it can't be as simple as going back to the golden rule, but it is. Do unto others as you would want done unto you. I know that I'm much more willing to be helpful and to go out of my way for somebody if they have been nice to me. That's the point in the office environment. And I remember one time, a long time ago, I was struggling in a relationship with a colleague. And, every time we hung up the phone, I mean, it was a colleague that, I'd have to talk to a couple times a day, at least. And get off the phone, and I would just think to myself, man, this is one tough egg to crack, type thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do. I pulled out all my communication tactics I've ever learned. I'm really laying it on. I don't know how to deal with this. So anyway, the next conversation that we had, I just started off and I said, hey, how's your day going? How's everything going? I just remember the other person just kind of paused for a second, like, something wrong. What are you doing here?
What do you want?
So I said, yeah, exactly. And I just really expressed, I just paused. I just said, curious, just checking in, just making sure that everything's okay. You kind of seemed out of sorts earlier, whatever. And then I actually learned that this person's father was going through some health issues. And and it had been going on for a couple of weeks. And so right there, just by asking that question, all of a sudden I became very empathetic and I said, you know what, this can wait. We could talk about this later. From that moment, Jake, we had a great working relationship. All it took was me pausing for a second to ask her how her day was going.
Oh man, that's a really good story. And I don't know, having more empathy, and I guess like just being aware, having some awareness to you and how you're approaching a situation too is so important, not just in an office environment, just really it's applicable to any situation in your life, right? just being reflective about like how you're thinking, how you're talking to people, having that like situational awareness is so key. And that's not what they teach you in school. And
No.
it's kind of just like a personal trait that you develop over experience, and it's difficult. That kind of brings me to personal story too, but it's more geared towards the content marketing. And I think this can also be applied to content marketing too. So I'm not so sure if you're that involved into SEO, into backlinks, into improving a page's trust and authority score or anything.
Not too much. I do manage a web page internally, manage a content page, and trust is definitely one of those things that has come up quite a bit in conversation. So I'm interested to hear your story.
Yeah. Well, this idea is that if you manage a client's website and they don't have any backlinks, if they don't have any inbound links from other websites, that influences that page's trust score and that page authority ranking in terms of the search algorithm. So what you want to do is you want to find a lot of websites that will link to your website. And you want to try to target websites that have really high trust and authority scores on the search engines, right? So that you can kind of take that trust and authority from other websites to boost your rankings in the organic search algorithms, right? So there's a tactic in content marketing that you use. So for example, I've been writing a lot of articles like the top 10 bloggers in this niche industry, right? Or the top 10 tools for this niche industry. And when you write these articles and, they're like 2,000 plus word long articles, you have a lot of content, right? And what you do is you have to reach out to all of those blogs that you mentioned in your article, or all the companies that manufacture those tools that you just referenced in your article. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, hey, look, I just created this awesome piece of content and look, you're in it, right? And so the idea is to get a backlink from them that points to your client's website. So originally, what I was doing when I first started this whole thing was, you should have read my emails. They were awful. It was like, hey, look at my blog posts. May I please have a backlink? And I didn't get any emails back, pretty much. So now, though, I've kind of like changed my tune where it's like, wait a second. No, you actually have to provide them value first. And then, kind of create that positive relationship, build the relationship. And then they're going to be like, okay, cool. Now what do you want? And that's when you make your ask. So lately I've been there's this tool online called Screaming Frog, which is a really weird name now that I'm actually pronouncing it out loud for the first time. But you go to Screaming Frog, and Screaming Frog, what it does is you put in your website and it tells you in like a detailed report all of the broken links on your website, which is very helpful because if you have like errors, 404 errors, if you have dead links on your website, that actually decreases your SEO and it's bad for your organic traffic. So what I've been doing now is rather than saying, hey, give me a backlink, I say, hey, I'm Jake, I do this. And by the way, here's a spreadsheet of all your broken links on your website. And by the way, you're also featured in this blog article that I wrote. And guess what? I've been getting a much higher conversion rate. Who would have thought?
There you go. That's awesome. I actually heard a story about a little plug for a book, I guess, is have you heard of or have you read Welcome to the Funnel?
No, I have not.
Please don't laugh whenever I tell you this after my commercial I gave earlier. It's from a former, he still works for them, a content marketing manager at LinkedIn.
Oh.
But it's a really great book. And so it's written by, let me see here.
Jason Miller.
Yeah. So it's, just a really well-written book. A lot of, again, to the content marketing form. It's just very digestible content. The chapters are really short. But it was kind of funny because he was telling a story about how he did that for one of his favorite band members. And he said that was the highlight of his career is he actually got the lead singer his favorite band to the backlink to his article. And so he was just beyond thrilled about that. So yeah, I hear you though.
Oh, that's awesome. So speaking of like click funnels and all that stuff, are these tactics kind of what you're using now in your company, or?
Yeah, I would say that the social strategy is a little bit different. So that's a piece of our overall. So social is kind of something completely different. When you're face to face with customers, that's a much different experience. And that's where you also have to, as much as I talked earlier about, really leveraging some of the learnings that we have from a, socially engaged generation and everything else, you still have to remember that you're face to face. And so then you have to basically balance, how would I interact with these people and appreciate the type of communication formats that we're used to, while also keeping it somewhat old school by just having a good old-fashioned conversation. So when we're doing the content, when we're face-to-face, it's obviously much different. The follow-up, I would say, is where these more modern, tactics are coming into play as far as, linking to content, developing an app where they can, download the content right from their phone and it's easily accessible and stuff like that. But I think that more importantly, it goes into, when it's you talking to someone else face to face, you can't fall back on, please click here. You know what I mean? Like, you have to know your stuff. You have to know your stuff because you're face to face. It's just a little bit different.
I really like that. When you're face to face, you can't rely on please click here for more information.
It's like I am the more information.
Yeah, that's funny. So I got another question then. I like this question a lot because of your background in journalism, and especially with your heavy background in content marketing. How do you create headlines that get more clicks?
I'm pausing because there's so much behind that question.
Is it too much of me to say that, like, when you write a headline, the writer should spend half of the entire time it takes to write a piece of persuasive content just on the headline?
I would say typically, again, I'm just, this is less of advice than me just saying this is what I do. I write a piece, how I write the piece. And then usually during the process of writing the piece, I don't mean for this to come across as like easy or anything, but it really does just kind of come to me in that, okay, this is the takeaway of it. And because I know that we're a headline generation. And again, I feel bad for generalizing a lot, but I mean, and I don't want to go too far in or I don't want to go in politics by any means, but if you just look at the previous election that we had, it's a headline generation. And I tie that back to our ADD or lack thereof. I mean, our attention span or lack thereof is because we read the headlines and we don't dive into the article. And so for me, the headline is so important, and that must be honest. The headline must be honest. It's not just about attracting the viewers. It's about once the viewers are attracted, they won't be disappointed by the contents. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading this copy blogger quote, and it says 8 out of 10 people will read your headline, but 2 out of 10 will read the rest of what you wrote.
Right. And that to me is so disappointing. A little bit disappointing, but I get it. I do understand it. But that's why when we look at the integrity of the headlines that we're writing, we need to make sure that they actually are true to the article itself, and that they're not going to lead the viewer or the reader in any sort of way. So again, I think that I've seen obviously very good headlines. I've seen really bad ones. I've seen really bad ones lately, actually, that just completely misguide the conversation, where you read the headline and you think, oh my goodness, and then you get into it and it's just completely off what you thought it was going to be.
Clickbait.
Yeah. And so anyway, I think that, going back to the goal of content marketing is not to probably some people who are going to listen to this are going to sit there and say, what? She's off her rocker. The goal of content marketing is not the number of clicks. The goal of content marketing, in my view, is to get loyal viewers, to get loyal customers. You may get the click that month, but I guarantee if you lead them in any direction that's anything but the truth, that's going to be the only click they get.
Yeah, that's really good information. That's great advice.
Thank you. I get lucky every once in a while.
I'm actually on Buffer's blog right now, and I'm reading some headline formulas. Yeah, they're all okay. So let me give you some examples. Get more clicks on your content, trust a headline formula to get the job done. 30 ways to make your headline sing. The ultimate headline formulas for tweets, posts, articles, and emails. What Gatorade knows about writing a great headline. And it just goes on and on and on. Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard. I guess what I'm kind of trying to bring up is that does this same type of like headline mentality also spill over into, I don't know, like even writing LinkedIn posts?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, and honestly, when I'm coaching early career people, I coach them on writing their emails by the headline test and, thinking of, okay, if somebody's going to read your email, or if they, how are you going to attract someone to read the body of your email? The subject line. The subject line to me is the equivalent of a headline. And so I'm always, putting in the headline or the subject line, what's the takeaway from this? Is there an action? I read about the different types of headlines recently, and they were saying, there's either something that is threatening, some sort, where it would attract people, where they feel threatened and they're like, oh, I have to read this because it's imperative. Or there's the headline where, like the list type headline, where they think of that as like advice, 10 ways to eat all the chocolate you want and still lose weight. Yes, please. I'm going to click into that. These are the types of things that draw people in. So I think that absolutely the headline, and again, though, I have to use my gut on this, and that don't get carried away with the attractiveness of the headline, or, trying so hard to make your headline sing that it takes away from what the article or what the real message is, people to walk away with.
Yeah, absolutely. So you say like walking away, the customer walking away is kind of bringing me to another point of this idea of the customer journey and how marketers and how especially content marketers map it out. Like, how do you map out a customer's journey, and what does that even mean?
Yeah, so there are several different touch points. And I mean, the customer's journey, and typically in marketing, goes something about, piquing their interest all the way through to point of sale. And the same in like a customer's life cycle, or what are the different touch points? Again, both physical and digital. So when we're talking about, okay, they're an interested customer. So maybe we got to click on a website and we're able to tie that back to them. Okay. Now, what are we going to do to probe a little bit further to where they become a lead, eventually an opportunity, eventually a customer, right? And then here's the real kicker. As everybody, again, thinks the job's over then. They say, yay, we got the sale, the customer journey. We met them and they're now a customer. Now we go into nurture. And that's where this continual cycle begins, right? Because they're a customer. That journey is still going on. You have to keep them happy because you want a happy customer that then recommends you. And that comes back to all the net promoter score of, okay, how are you going to continue to build upon your customer base? It's word of mouth. A lot of marketing budgets, I would say in the last, 10 years or so, aren't as hefty as they once were. You could do a lot of television spots, or you could, radio spots. I mean, even, streaming and stuff like that now with, traditional radio, maybe not getting as much advertising. But I mean, people, they're spending more money on nurturing those customers to where they go out then and get them new customers. So, and that comes back down to the loyalty.
Got it. I'm kind of imagining the upside down pyramid right now in my head for the customer journey. At the very top is awareness, and then there's like different levels, right, leading down to point of sale.
Right.
So does your team then kind of market each content piece to each level of that journey then?
We do. So looking, at our global campaigns team, absolutely. And then even for us and our, small niche of the customer center specific, absolutely looking at who, not so much top of the funnel, really when we come in is when it's lead to opportunity. And so we're more at that bottom of the funnel, all the way down, to the customer and to the sale. I mean, when the content, again, when we're at that stage,
that's why it becomes much more focused, because at that point, we're expected to have a bit more information about what our customers really looking for and who they are. So that's how we can actually tailor it more. So I'm a huge fan of online shopping. I rarely go into stores anymore because I become terrified, quite frankly. So I love online shopping. I love the ease of it, and it's so stress-free for me. And it's amazing because, I'll go out to a website, right? And I'm kind of browsing around. So that's the awareness. I obviously went out to the website for a reason, whether it was a Google search, whatever it might be. And so they've got me. So from that point then, that's when those ads start coming up in my browser. And they say, oh, now we have a 2 for $20 going on, or, whatever that may be. And so eventually they're like, this is a lead. And then I make a purchase, right? Now it's an opportunity. And now I'm getting hit with the ads on my browser. Maybe things, I don't know if you noticed this, but, those sort of ads come up now in the social platform feeds. And then, I actually get a magazine in the mail. And that's another, so all of this is content, right? But the reason why they're investing in me a little bit more is because I'm more than just at the awareness stage. I have now purchased, I went through the funnel, right? Pretty quickly. I'm now a customer. So they say, okay, from a content standpoint, I know what you like a little bit more than what I know others like, and I'm going to invest more in you. Just a kind of basic example.
Yeah, no, that's great, actually. And it brings me up to my next point of this idea that there is just tons of data that's being poured in to these content marketing strategies. More and more now, there is this use of really complicated algorithms to determine exactly what you want to buy, right? There's that really ultra famous case of, okay, how does this go? There was this girl, she was like, 16 or 17. So she was on Amazon and she was like looking up certain items. And so she got a coupon in the mail from Amazon for a birth control test. And the dad found it and got all angry and was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're pregnant or whatever, right? Well, it turns out that the Amazon algorithm knew, based off of her search history, that all the indicators pointed that she was pregnant or in the market for looking for a pregnancy test. Now the algorithms know, kind of based off of our search behavior, things that we don't even know up front. So personally, it's a little scary, but I guess how do you reconcile this idea that with more things going to the Internet of Things, right, with more devices being Wi-Fi enabled and with more connectivity, there's going to be, I guess, less privacy, right? And there's going to be less, I guess, agency within yourself to determine exactly what you want to buy. Am I making any sense here?
You've hit on multiple points. Absolutely relate to the Amazon story. And I can say that it's even better, even funnier when, you get the advertisements on Pandora when it's, blasting from your Bluetooth speaker. And they're like, hey, so did I. You're like, oh, no, I didn't search on that. I don't know.
That's funny.
So anyway, it's true. And it's targeted marketing. This is what we're going through now is the 1990 version of a mailer. We used to get things in the mail very specifically and used to sit there and think, oh my gosh, how did they know that about me? Or remember when everybody got really happy when we figured out how to do mail merges? So it looked like, hey, this was addressed to me and not just dear customer. And now we've continued to just take it a level and a level deeper. And all I can say is that I'm a huge fan of technology, always have been. I also think that it's one of those things that you kind of go back to your superhero and you say, you can choose to use it for good or for evil. And I think that we have to look at the technology and appreciate what it's there for and use it to our advantage, use the data to our advantage. And as a consumer, recognize that we are in a world of connected people, connected devices, and we love that. We love the fact that, on the iPhone, you can do Find My Friends. We love that, if I'm driving, I can quickly say, okay, Google, find me the nearest, Thai restaurant. And it quickly directs me. These are the conveniences of now every day that we're used to. And I think that we would be very silly to think that those don't also come along with compromises. So we just have to be aware of them.
No, totally. That's a really, really great way of putting it. I guess my concern is just at what point am I really buying a product? Like, at what point did I make that decision by myself, right?
Never. I'm just kidding.
It kind of feels like that way, though, right? It's this idea that like there's just AI everywhere that I go, algorithms, AI that are just constantly influencing me to make the next purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this whole movement right now. Movement's kind of a strong word, but it's, this idea of intelligent retail. Okay. And I've been doing a lot of research in this area specifically. And it's so fascinating to me to think about really the buyer's journey from starting at home and looking and saying, I'm interested in a couch. Okay, so we go out and we start looking at couches, and immediately, we have a little chat that pops up and says, how may I help you? Right? We've all gone through this scenario before. And so we start chatting with somebody, and this becomes a personal assistant, a personal shopping assistant who's helping us essentially pick out a piece of furniture for our home. And how do they do this? Well, because we can upload pictures. We can share with them ideas that we have. So it all starts there in this digital environment. And eventually then we make our way into the store where we're able to, based on photos of our new couch, which if we go to the same store, who knows, they probably already have. If not, certainly it's on our mobile device. And immediately that store is able to say, here are some pillows that you can buy, and here's a throw that you can buy, and here's an ottoman that you can buy that goes along with it. So you're absolutely right. We started out looking for a couch, but because the easeability, right, and the accessibility of the whole experience, the whole shopping experience, we think to ourselves, okay, sure, I'll go ahead and buy this other stuff because you're right. It does look good, and I trust you. It's this idea of luxury as well. Whether, that shopping assistant is sitting behind the computer in a cube farm or not, we have this essence of, I have this personal shopping assistant who's helping me. I trust them. I'm going to go ahead and buy this. It is all it's a probe after a probe. That's all it is.
I guess I'll punch up your idea for a little bit. The notion of having to go to a store seems it's not going to be there soon. I mean, I was just looking at this one article that I saw on LinkedIn of this really cool and innovative museum that was using augmented reality on an app, right? So you just like look through your camera on your phone, kind of like, Pokemon Go. And it was just like lighting up the space they were in with all like, crazy objects and like colors, and it was all interactive and it was all augmented reality, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So just combine augmented reality with just a basic Facebook Messenger chatbot at this point that could become your personal assistant for a couch, whatever. This technology is here already, and it's only going to grow more sophisticated in the next 2-3 years.
Absolutely. And right now, we look into these things today, figuring out, again, from a content perspective, how are we making those experiences more memorable for our customers? So AR is a big deal right now, a lot of interest. And so from our standpoint, it's how can we make people feel like they're interacting with our technology? How do we make people feel like they are inside, one of these boxes so they can really look around, poke around, whatever? How are we really including them as a participant rather than an outsider? And so that's what augmented reality does. To your point about the stores, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I've had several conversations on this recently, and just, technology, really it's this idea of the digital transformation, right? And as an industry, you have to be willing to roll with it, because if you're going to be one of those people or one of those companies that's resistant to the change, you're going to, sorry to say it so directly, but you're going to be dead in the water. And so the retail industry is really going through this transformation right now when they look at, we have actually made the shopping experience so darn easy online. People literally do not want to come to the stores anymore. What does that become for them? So I don't know if you're familiar, but there are things like, smart mirrors that actually exist. These aren't, futuristic Jetsons type thing. It's really the concept of stores becoming more like showrooms, like they have for, Tesla or something like that, where basically as a customer, you walk in, they only keep a handful of items in the inventory. And when you walk in, it's more or less the opportunity for you to select clothes, again, that exist like on a tablet or something. And then these smart mirrors allow you to see what those clothes would look like on you.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You get the idea of how it would look. And then, of course, here they come with the probes, Jake, just for you. They say, oh, and why don't you pair it with this necklace or these shoes and whatever else? And then when you leave the store, again, you're not leaving with anything in hand. They say, thanks to Amazon and that type of business model, they say, okay, it's sent to you. It'll be at your house in an hour delivered.
Yeah, with drones.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a very interesting, exciting time that we're in. I mean, it's just a crazy time of change. So
it is. Yeah. Highly disruptive time of change for sure. Does it scare you at all? I mean, like, I know you're like totally pro-human and pro-humanity, like you're customer focused for sure. Does it scare you that maybe AI might be taking you out of a job soon?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think it's more scary for me, not necessarily from the job standpoint, but I see it happening in our youth. Again, not to sound, too condescending in any way, but the social etiquette of the younger generation. And when I say younger, I'm talking middle school and up into high school, where conversations exist in text messages. I see those same individuals not being able to hold conversations face to face because they're not used to it. That's what scares me. It scares me so much because I really cannot picture a time when all of us are just too busy in our own devices having those digital conversations to where we can't stop and look up and have a conversation with a human being. And I don't want to sound too dramatic or anything about that, but we see the signs. The signs are there that that's happening. From a business standpoint, I'm an eternal optimist. And I see it as a challenge. I see it as a challenge to up the game in other forms of content. So what I mean by that is if you don't have the privilege to meet with someone face to face, how do you attract them and befriend them and build that trust in other ways, digitally, basically?
Oh my God. Heather, I could talk to you all night.
Well, thanks. I know, but you are a busy man.
I know. I have another podcast coming up soon, and I do have to let you go soon, but I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. The pleasure's been all mine. It's been really great speaking with you. So thank you for your questions. They were great.
Oh, for sure. You're not off the hook yet. I do have some more questions for you. At the end of each podcast, we do a Lonely Island kind of exercise, right? And the idea is that we put you on an abandoned island. There's no one there. It's a very lonely island, all right? And you're only allowed to bring a couple different items with you. And the first item that you can bring is one book for the rest of your life. What would it be?
One book. Oh my goodness. That's a challenging question.
I know.
I promise you, it's not one that's written by a LinkedIn employee. I am somebody who reads books more than once.
Hey, Heather, can I rephrase my question?
Yes.
I'll take one from Tim Ferriss here, and I'll ask you, what's the one book that you've recommended to people the most?
I guess I would go with, I would say, And the Mountains Echoed or Defending Jacob. These are books that I read quite some time ago, but they really hit me pretty hard. And so those are books that I continue to bring up to other people and ask if they've read them. And if they haven't, then I say, you should give them a whirl. So
what are those about?
I usually tried. So In the Mountains Echoed is about a war in the Middle East. And then Defending Jacob is a really troubling book. I don't know if you've ever seen The Good Son. It was an older film with Macaulay Culkin and Eli Wood.
Yeah.
It's a similar story kind of to that.
Oh yeah, with the mother and like the cliff, and she's like, "Oh my God, who do I let go? It's shy."
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
Yes.
so good.
So those books, I'm one of those people, I used to only be able to read one book at a time, but as especially over the last few years, I like to be reading one business book and one book just for fun. I tend to have two books going at the same time. So right now I'm reading a Financial Intelligence 101 book. And then also I just downloaded, I don't know, this is the for fun part. I don't know if anybody are Babe Walker fans out there, but she just writes really hilarious comedy and it has me laughing out loud. And so it's just kind of that, mental refresh, I guess, from work.
Oh my God. I'm on babewalker.com right now. This is hilarious. Awesome. All right, cool.
She makes me laugh. So
there's this wine bottle on her front page. It's White Girl Rosé 2014. I'm going to have to buy that for my wife, I think.
That's my girl.
Okay, what about one album that you could bring to this lonely island?
So I'm a classic rock fan.
These are really difficult questions because, I used to be a radio DJ. And so I'm like, my head is just spinning right now with a bunch of songs. But I guess an album that's just good start to finish. Or can I just do a band? I would just do the Eagles. I love the Eagles. Every song that they've ever come out with has been good. But actually, I need to retract this. Oh, no, not retract. I still love the Eagles, but Fleetwood Mac is my favorite band. So, and I just actually recently, it was March. It was back in March. I get to go see, my partner bought me for Christmas tickets to go see Stevie Nicks. And so we got to go see Stevie Nicks, and Chrissy Hines opened up for her.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so jealous.
Oh, it was so cool. And she's approaching 70 and just still rocking it.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, she's so cool. All right, cool. So we got two more questions and then I'll let you off, right? One website that you can put in your back pocket and then one app.
Okay. One website to put in my back pocket. So I would say CNN is the one in my back pocket. And then the app that I would do is Sworkit. Have you heard of this?
I'm sorry, did you say twerk it?
No, Sworkit. So like a combination of sweat and work it. So SWORKIT. So Sworkit.
As I said, twerk it.
Close, but Sworkit is a workout app, and it's it has different routines, and you set the time for I have 30 minutes this morning, an hour, I have 15 minutes, and you do everything from stretching, yoga, all of that stuff. And so I would say that would be my app.
What is the number one productivity tool that you use in your everyday workspace?
My calendar.
Nice. I love that answer.
I'm glad you're very excited about that.
Do you color code it? Are you really OCD about it?
I am. I'm very OCD about it. My time is valuable. And I also respect that everybody else's time is valuable. And so I organize my day according to my calendar. And so I have my regular meetings. I have my to-do list that I still write on paper, by the way, despite all the technology. I still write things down in a notebook. I have it sitting right next to me. Then I'll just basically transpose that and look at my calendar and say, okay, during this half-hour time slot, I'm going to work on this item. This 30 minutes, I'll work here. And so that my day is very organized in that way. And that's how, at the end of every single day, I'm able to get my inbox down to less than 10 emails. I always write the 3 things that I want to be able to get done that day. And I have been successful in always getting at least those top 3 things done by managing my calendar appropriately.
That is excellent advice. And I'm definitely going to be putting that in the article that I'm going to write about this episode.
Well, good. Hopefully I can help some people. I know I always talk to my partner about it because he's like, I just don't understand how you're so efficient with this and da-da-da. And I tell him, I'm like, you got to manage your calendar, man. I'll help you.
Well, listen, Heather, it has been a blast. Thank you so much. It's weird and a little meta that I'm going to be using this podcast as part of my content marketing strategy for my website.
Oh, awesome. That's great to hear. Well, I'm looking forward to having a new friend in the business and being able to share the good, bad, and ugly side of things. So
anytime you want, and I really look forward to having you on the podcast in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a blast out there in beautiful California.
Will do, always. Cheers.
All right. That was Heather Otto, and you're listening to the Jake Lawrence Podcast, a weekly podcast dedicated to Chicago industry, technology, and thought leadership. We have lots of more content coming up in the pipeline. We got weekly shows. Forgive us for the month delay. 30 days, I know, is horrible. We got lots in the backlog, lots in the pipeline. We're going to try to aim for Friday releases for the next 2 months. So keep on being subscribed, keep on listening, and if you want, tell all your friends about the show. We love downloads and we love reviews too. So if you want to go onto iTunes and review the show, that would be awesome. And I will give you personally $500. No, I'm just kidding. I will give you my love, and I will personally message you and say thank you. Anyways, I hope you have a great week, and we'll see each other. Well, not really, but you'll hear my voice next week.